And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with a rather exciting, well, I don't know about exciting, but I really think this is an exciting week. But we are here for a wide receiver preview with some, interesting news. And maybe a tad bit of value has opened up. But let's get right into it for the week 11 wide receiver preview for the FanDuel main slate. So starting off, two wide receivers opposite each other. That is going to be a pretty much a defensive game, but you still got to get to these all-stars. These are pretty much wide receivers. I mean, obviously the best wide receiver when it comes to the pay up, without a doubt, is not even the top two. Even with Jackson Smith and Puka, as well as they play, the top pay ups to me are Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and probably Drake London. I actually like wide receivers priced 3, 4, and 5 over priced number 1 and 2. Obviously, Jamar had an amazing game against Pittsburgh. I forgot what week it was. I think it was a week 5, week 6 matchup. It was a Thursday night game. Like I said, running wise, Pittsburgh is defense, but overall, it's an overrated, offense. And, the Bengals are just terrible in general, but Flacco was able to get it to Jamar 16 times for about 167 and a touchdown. So, best believe I'll be heavy on that game. Justin Jefferson against a suspect Chicago defense. Also, one of the bottom 5 defenses in the league. Also, this is also a J.J. McCarthy who has now had at least half a season of experience because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was an opening weekend game, the opening Monday night game, possibly. So, yes, that was the opening. That was, or was it a week 2 Monday night game? But it was the game that McCarthy ran for one, threw to Justin, and gave one to Aaron Jones on the comeback. So Minnesota also has a great matchup with a very suspect defense. I like Atlanta because it's a bounce back. They're gonna be at home, and yeah, they pretty much gotta get their revenge for getting embarrassed. It was definitely the upset of the season, and kind of put Carolina on the map to be a respectable squad instead of one of the bottom teams in the league. I will definitely go back to Nico this week. I got a feeling with everything around him, there's a chance, especially if Drake London is healthy, I got a chance that Nico could be kind of ignored when it comes to, ownership or whatever. Because when you look around, you got the ever popular Rashee Rice. It's still against Denver, but once again, Denver has no Patrick Surtain, and then of course the way they run routes. If Rashee Rice is gonna grab ownership regardless. So let's not fool ourselves. It is Denver, but Rashee Rice is gonna grab ownership regardless. Then you got, Devontae Adams around him. Yes, sporting an injury, but we gotta see Drake London against Carolina. You got Mbuka right there, and then you got Ladd. So there's a lot around Nico. Nico not the best name, actually. And then, like I said, on top of that, you also got what? If you want Nico, is it that hard to find another 300 for Justin Jefferson? Now, yes, it's a big leap. These top 3 are a far leap because it's almost 1,000 between Jamar and Justin Jefferson. So they kind of set themselves apart from everybody else. It's like a tier 1, and then it's literally like a tier 2.5 in a way, with that much of a gap from the top 3. Because with the top 3, the gap is from 94, 95, 97. So if you're at Jamar Chase and you want to get to Jackson Smith, you got to 5,300. But if you stop at Justin Jefferson, and you definitely gotta move some stuff around and play a cheaper defense, because Justin Jefferson is, like I said, a full 800 from Jamar Chase. But like I said, a lot of great options here at wide receiver. Like I said, I definitely like Ladd. Maybe the ankle injury is more of a, kind of a soreness kind of issue, because against the Jacksonville defense, I definitely love that. I definitely love Quentin Johnson on the opposite side there too. Quentin Johnson, he's also questionable with his shin. Now, since I skipped down that far, and the reason why I like Quentin Johnson, because like I said, Quentin Johnson, Nico Collins could have a similar day. Quentin Johnson could have a similar day like Nico, going deep and dominating the secondary with some deep slants and some deep routes. That's why I like Chargers double stacks especially. But since I went down this far, before I head back up, let's talk about Arizona. So This game has now turned into a war of attrition. On top of defensive people who got injured last week, Arizona is now basically mocking the San Francisco 49ers because they now have another wide receiver injury. So Marvin Harrison had an appendicitis, so he had it removed today. He is already ruled out. The question is, will he be ready 2 weeks from now? So what that leaves is Michael Wilson and good old special teamer Greg Dortch. Normally, I've done the Greg Dortch thing before, just like how a couple of years ago, or what I say, it's been a couple of years here and there where I played Greg Dortch. But, Greg Dortch is a special teamer and he's a fourth wide receiver. You're only playing Greg Dortch because, one, Greg Dortch is normally between like 45, 47. The most I've ever played Greg Dortch ever in my years of playing fantasy is 56, 57. He's 52. He's a gadget guy, screen pass, and a slot guy. You already got Zay Jones already out with the Achilles. And there's also other injuries as well. So, if anything, I got a feeling it will definitely be Andre Baciela. He has been called up before. He's also a long time, Cardinal on the practice squad. And more than likely, I got a feeling he's going to have to play the opposite side. So, like I said, a lot of value with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Jacoby Brissett can't throw it to, McBride every down. Why do I like Dortch? One, Dortch knows the offense. Two, he's a fourth wide receiver. Fourth wide receiver normally practice with the backups. So obviously, if you practice with the backups, I think he can develop a repertoire with Jacoby Brissett. Like I said, they did call a little gadget play, and he had a 6-yard run last week. But I think it's reliable to have Dortch. I know that I'm going to get the Dortch quite a bit. Definitely going to get, especially now that you basically have wide receiver 1 and 2. So you have Michael Wilson, then it's Greg Dortch. So the ball has to go somewhere. Or you could consider, say, still, the way with the volume is, Greg Dortch is still number 3 because McBride is still going to dominate the looks. But, it's not a great San Francisco. It's a beat-up San Francisco offense. So Greg Dortch is going to have some easy matchups over the middle. So I definitely like him this week at 52. Michael Wilson's still an option because he's basically the main top wide receiver left at 55. You just can't forget him. It's not like Greg Dortch has this great opportunity, but at the same time, he's almost 800 to 900 cheaper than Michael Wilson. He's right there. Both of them are very viable. So now let's continue on and let's get back to where we were. Metcalf, I'm definitely going to get to. Like I said, it's my favorite game this week, 7,400. Across from him, chasing it back. T. Higgins at 73. Roma Dunze had a solid outing against Minnesota. Minnesota offense not as strong as it was earlier this year. Like I said, that's another sneaky game I think that can shoot out. So, J.J. McCarthy, Williams with a couple of maybe doubles or a single with a run back, whatever the case may be. Zay Flowers is looking good this week. Earlier this year, definitely had, I think, what was it? I think it was week 2 or week 3 that Lamar had that 4-touchdown game. Where is it? Yeah, and he had a solid game, 11 targets for 775. Just didn't get on the scoreboard. I definitely think he could do that. Keenan Allen, always an option. Jordan Addison, a lower price, lower ownership option in that Chicago game at home as they look to sweep the Bears this year. Other top players, like I said, we already talked about Quentin Johnson, Xavier Worthy, Romeo Dobbs against a suspect Giants secondary will always be definitely one of the worst secondary. Like I said, at least all the bad secondaries are here. The only one that's not on the slate is Dallas. And then if I'm not mistaken, that's another thing that I like about Green Bay this week. Obviously, sometimes it's one of those like, hey, let's just get Jacobs and just call it a day. But let me see, you still got Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs is there, and then Christian Watson just came back. So you still got Matthew Golden, you still got Dontavian Wicks there. If one of them are out, then, obviously it's because that's another offense where the ball gets spread out. But I still like Romeo Dobbs. Like, without Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs is the number one technically for this squad. So, Giants secondary, and like I said, all these, they're all cheap. Like, if you wanted to and just get a little different, because you know Jacobs is going to be popular. If Jacobs runs for yardage but only gets one touchdown, and then you somehow take a lineup and stack, and then you get Jordan Love for 3 touchdowns, and you get one of them, and you get the right guys. Let's say you get Dobbs for 2, Christian Watson for 1. Yeah, you're looking a whole lot better than the Josh Jacobs lineups. Something very viable against a weak New York Giants secondary. And let's finish this up real quick. Pardon me on that. Let's get back to everybody. So now the paydowns. What are we looking at the paydowns? Like I said, neither defense is anything to worry about. And now that Juwan Jennings is here, Juwan Jennings 6,200 did look pretty decent, and that Arizona defense is nothing to be feared. I like Shakir this week in the pass funnel of Tampa Bay as always. DJ Moore obviously an option. Definitely gotta like Parker Watson if he's still healthy. Tez Johnson probably still one of my favorite paydowns, still under 6,000. So get there, because if he has another decent game or half a game that what he had before, Tez Johnson is definitely going to be over 6,000, probably be 63. Jameis Winston is going to be the starter from New York, so probably some crisper passes to Wandell and Darius Slayton. That's definitely a contrarian pick right there. As we keep going down, we already spoke about, is Ricky Pearsall going to come back? I mean, Brock Purdy sounds like he's a lot closer than he is, but we don't know. Calvin Austin is the cheap contrarian. I mean, surprisingly, that game is looking pretty contrarian, except for a couple of chalk pieces. Like I said, it's personally my favorite game this week since he had Pittsburgh. As we keep scrolling down, Rashid Shaheed, I definitely like. I'm still sprinkling him. Like I said, he has to get used to the offense, stuff like that. But he's definitely somebody I like to pick. Jalen Naylor is projecting well. We already spoke about Michael Wilson. As we keep on going, I guess Keon Coleman could be used as a big play, low-owned contrarian flyer for a play deep or whatever. But Tampa Bay is a different kind of pass funnel this year. They're kind of keeping everything underneath. So somewhat like the Bills in a way, but just with a more aggressive and better front seven, because they protect the run better. They're just not getting beat deep often. So that's why this Bills matchup actually works. This Bills matchup against Tampa Bay, it actually favors maybe a lot of Josh Allen running because of the blitz packages and some Shakir over the middle kind of plays. And as we keep going, I mean, if it turns into a blowout, Christian Kirk's an option because it is Tennessee. And then right there, Andre Ilyasova. You got Greg Dortch. Here's your paydowns. I don't really see anything really down here. Chris Godwin's pretty much out. He's not expected to play. And there's really nothing here. I don't think there's really anybody down here that you must get to for a paydown. Just like how I feel at running back, it stops at 6,000 with Kareem Hunt. I think with the wide receivers, the lowest you should be going, because there are people that are going to get, I mean, like I said, it's because of volume, but hey, can you get lucky and, Andre Ilyasova for 5,100 gets a pass or two and then gets a touchdown and has like an 8.8, 8.9 or something, and then allows you to pay up along with a pay down defense. Andre Ilyasova, Greg Dortch, Christian Kirk, Keon Coleman, Michael Wilson, Jalen Naylor. These are the type of people that if you pick the right defense, you have two players where you're still not over $10,000. And then you just build your lineup from there. And then, hey, who knows? Maybe you like paying down for tight end this week, and then you're really in business. But other than that, that is the end of the wide receiver preview show. Thank you for tuning in. Tight end and defense should be out by the end of the week, along with the final injury updates on Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, week 11 is looking like a doozy this week. Can't wait. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Grade A Fantasy, and I'm signing off.